First contact with the jungle. June 12, 1966. Dawn breaks over the Ia Drang Valley, central highlands of Vietnam. Mist clings low to the ground, thick enough to soak uniforms before the sun ever touches them. Captain Raymond Lefebvre of the 1st Cavalry Division stands at the edge of a landing zone scraped out of elephant grass by explosives only hours earlier. His boots sink into black mud with every step. The air smells of rot, wet leaves, and something metallic that he cannot yet name. Around him, young American soldiers tighten chin straps and wipe sweat from their eyes, though the day has barely begun. This is not the enemy they trained to fight. The jungle presses in from all sides, alive with sound. Cicadas scream from the canopy. Somewhere deeper inside, unseen birds explode into flight. The trees are so tall that the sky becomes a narrow ribbon of pale blue above them. Vines hang like cables. The ground is uneven, treacherous, riddled with roots that twist ankles and holes hidden beneath leaves. Every step forward feels like entering a throat that is slowly closing. Lieutenant James Carter, a platoon leader fresh from Fort Benning, checks his M16 for the 3rd time. Moisture beads along the receiver. Nothing stays dry here. Not weapons. Not socks. Not skin. The humidity wraps around the men like a wet blanket, stealing breath and strength before the first shot is ever fired. Sweat pours freely, soaking flak vest and jungle fatigues until they weigh twice what they did at sunrise. Within minutes of moving off the landing zone, the heat begins to take its toll. Men slow. Breathing becomes labored. The jungle offers no wind, no relief. Each step requires hacking through undergrowth with machetes, the metallic chop echoing in short, dull bursts. Progress is measured in meters, not miles. Radios crackle with static, their signals swallowed by terrain that seems designed to isolate and confuse. Private First Class Miguel Alvarez stumbles and falls. Not from enemy fire, but from exhaustion. His hands tremble as he pushes himself up. The medics will later mark it down as heat stress, but for now he is waved forward, water bottle already half empty. The jungle does not care if you are trained, motivated, or brave. It drains everyone equally. By mid-morning, the first signs of sickness appear. Leeches attach silently to ankles and calves, leaving thin trails of blood that mix with sweat and mud. Insects swarm exposed skin, biting through fabric, crawling into ears and nostrils. The men slap and curse, nerves already fraying. This is not a battlefield where you see the enemy. This is a place where the enemy could be anywhere, or nowhere at all. As the patrol advances, the jungle begins to reshape the mind. Visibility drops to a few meters. Every shadow suggests movement. Every snap twig tightens fingers on triggers. The men are alert, too alert. Fear does not come in a rush here. It seeps in slowly, like moisture into boots, until it is impossible to tell where the fear ends and the jungle begins. Captain Lefebvre halts the column near a narrow stream. The water looks clear but smells faintly sweet. The men hesitate before filling canteens. They have been warned about dysentery, about parasites that will hollow them out from the inside. Still, thirst wins. Within weeks, some of these same soldiers will be evacuated not with bullet wounds, but with fevers, infections, and bodies ravaged by disease. There is no gunfire yet. No visible enemy. And still the jungle is already winning. Overhead, the canopy blocks the sun, turning day into a perpetual twilight. Time loses meaning. Watches fog over. Sweat stings eyes. Uniforms never dry. Feet soften and blister, skin breaking down until every step feels like walking on knives. The jungle does not attack all at once. It erodes. It grinds. It exhausts. For the first time, some of the men begin to understand a terrible truth. In Vietnam, survival will not depend only on marksmanship or tactics. It will depend on endurance. On resisting heat, sickness, and the slow psychological pressure of fighting a war inside a living organism that seems hostile to human presence. As the patrol pushes deeper, swallowed by grim walls and unseen threats, the realization settles in quietly. Bullets may kill quickly. But the jungle intends to kill slowly. Heat, disease, and the slow collapse. By the third day in the field, the men of Captain Lefebvre's company no longer count time in hours. They count it in water breaks, in hot to red-tape blistered feet, in the moments when someone drops their pack and has to be helped back to their feet. The jungle does not relent at night. Darkness brings no cool relief, only thicker air and new threats that crawl and buzz just beyond the beam of a flashlight. Sergeant William Red Haskins wakes to the sound of coughing. It comes from everywhere at once. Men choke on damp air, lungs struggling to pull oxygen from it so heavy it feels solid. Sweat never dries. Clothes clean like a second skin. Fungus blooms between toes and in armpits, eating away at flesh. What starts as itching becomes open sores within days. The medics are overwhelmed. Corporal Denestran moves from man to man, checking temperatures, handing out salt tablets that dissolve uselessly on tongues already coated in grime. Heat exhaustion turns into heat stroke without warning. One moment a soldier is walking, the next he collapses, eyes glassy, skin burning. Evacuation helicopters are scarce and landing zones hard to find. Sometimes the jungle decides who stays and who leaves. Disease moves invisibly. Mosquitoes rise in clouds at dusk, their whining a constant reminder of malaria and dengue fever. The men wear repellent until their skin burns, but it does little good. Sleeves are rolled down despite the heat. Faces are smeared with camouflage and sweat, eyes rimmed red from exhaustion and infection. Each bite is a countdown that may not end for weeks. Water is everywhere, yet safe water is rare. Streams carry parasites that rot the gut. Rain fills helmets and ponchos, but even collected water must be purified, and purification takes time. Men drink anyway. Dysentery spreads quickly. Soldiers stagger through patrols weakened, dehydrated, ashamed to speak of symptoms until they can barely stand. The jungle amplifies every weakness. Radios fail when soaked. Maps turn to pulp. Boots rot from the inside out. The weight of a fully loaded pack, already heavy in training, becomes crushing when fabric absorbs water and mud clings to everything. A soldier who weighed 180 pounds in the morning can be carrying an extra 20 by noon, all of it dead weight. At night, sleep is shallow and broken. The ground is never dry. Hammocks sway inches above insects and snakes. Leeches drop from leaves. Rats scurry through gear. Men jerk awake at emergent sounds, fingers already on triggers. The jungle works on the mind as relentlessly as it works on the body. Fear becomes background noise, constant and exhausting. Private Alvarez develops a fever on the 5th day. His eyes are unfocused. He stumbles, speaking slowly, words slurring together. The medics suspect malaria. There is no immediate extraction. He is carried for hours, his weight shifting between exhausted shoulders, until the patrol halts again. By then, 3 more men are vomiting, their strength gone. The enemy has still not fired a shot. Command reports will later list these men as non-battle casualties. Heat injury. Infection. Disease. Numbers on a page. But in the jungle, the effect is immediate and brutal. Every evacuated soldier means fewer eyes, fewer rifles, fewer hands to carry the wounded. The unit shrinks, not from combat losses, but from attrition imposed by an environment that punishes even brief mistakes. Captain Lefebvre listens to the coughing and groaning as night settles again. He knows that even if they never encounter the enemy, this mission will cost them. The jungle has already claimed its share. And deeper inside, waiting patiently, are fighters who know this terrain intimately, who let the jungle do its work before they ever reveal themselves. Terrain as a weapon. On the 7th day, the terrain itself begins to dictate every decision. Maps show contour lines and name features, but on the ground those features dissolve into an endless maze of ridges, ravines, and vegetation so dense it swallows sound. Captain Lefebvre orders a movement along what should be a gradual slope. Instead, the men find themselves climbing nearly vertical ground slick with moss and rain, hands clawing at roots just to stay upright. Every step is noisy. Leaves tear. Branches snap. Mud sucks at boots with a wet, obscene sound. Stealth becomes impossible. The jungle announces their presence long before they reach any objective. Lieutenant Carter realizes that traditional formations mean nothing here. Lines collapse into clumps. Spacing disappears. Men bunch together simply because there is nowhere else to go. Visibility drops to arm's length. The world shrinks. A soldier cannot see the man 10 meters ahead, cannot tell if movement is friendly or hostile. The jungle creates blind corners everywhere. Each bend in the trail is a potential ambush site. Each rise in elevation could hide an enemy force that sees and hears everything. Radio communication degrades further. The canopy absorbs signals. Hills block transmission. Messages are relayed by runners who struggle through undergrowth, arriving late or not at all. Coordination with artillery and air support becomes unreliable. Even when air strikes are called in, pilots struggle to identify targets beneath layered foliage. Bombs explode harmlessly above treetops, the jungle shrugging off firepower designed for open terrain. The men begin to understand how the jungle protects those who live within it. Trails that look unused are, in fact, highways known only to local fighters. Tunnels and spider holes remain invisible until someone steps directly on top of them. The ground itself can open and swallow a man without warning. As the patrol descends into a narrow valley, the air grows heavier still. Heat pools here, trapped by walls of green. Movement slows to a crawl. Sweat drips from chins and noses. Boots slide on clay. A single misstep sends a soldier skidding downhill, rifle clattering away, heart racing at the thought of the noise he has made. Then the first contact comes, brief and disorienting. A burst of automatic fire erupts from somewhere ahead and above. It lasts seconds. No clear target appears. The jungle absorbs the sound, making it impossible to pinpoint direction. The men drop, firing back at shadows, muzzle flashes lighting leaves and vines that reveal nothing. When it is over, one man is down, not from a bullet, but from a fall during the scramble for cover. His ankle is broken, bone pushing against skin. Evacuation would take hours, maybe days. The jungle has claimed another victim without needing accuracy or numbers. The enemy fades back into terrain that seems to close behind them. No pursuit. No second engagement. Just silence, thick and suffocating. The psychological effect is immediate. The men know now that they can be watched, measured, and struck at will by opponents who choose when and where to fight. Captain Lefebvre realizes the truth that so many commanders before him have learned too late. In Vietnam, the jungle is not neutral ground. It shapes the battle before the first shot. It hides, protects, and empowers those who understand it. For everyone else, it confuses, exhausts, and exposes. As the patrol regroups and presses on, morale sinks. The men are fighting the land as much as any human enemy. And the land is winning. The psychological war. After the first contact, silence becomes unbearable. Every man listens harder than before, straining to separate imagination from reality. The jungle never stops making noise, and that is its cruelest trick. Wind through leaves sounds like movement. Distant animals mimic footsteps. Branches fall without warning. The mind fills in the gaps, creating enemies where there may be none. Lieutenant Carter notices the change almost immediately. Men flinch at shadows. Fingers rest permanently on triggers. Sleep deprivation sharpens nerves until they fray. A week without real rest turns small problems into crisis. A snapped lace. A jammed magazine. A missing canteen. Each feels catastrophic in a place where margins are already thin. At night, fear intensifies. Flares illuminate only fragments of the jungle, brief frozen images of trunks and vines before darkness swallows everything again. Sentries fight exhaustion, eyelids heavy, knowing that a moment of sleep could be fatal. Sweat cools in the night air, chilling bodies already weakened by fatigue and sickness. No one truly relaxes. Not even for a second. The enemy rarely shows themselves. Instead, they let uncertainty do the work. Occasional pot shots echo from unseen positions. A single round cracks through the canopy, then nothing. No follow-up attack. Just enough to remind the Americans that they are never alone. Just enough to keep adrenaline surging long after it is needed. Booby traps appear without warning. A tripwire nearly invisible in the undergrowth. A punji stake hidden beneath leaves. The jungle conceals these weapons perfectly. When one detonates or injures a man, the shock ripples through the unit. Movement slows even further. Every step becomes a deliberate act of fear. Sergeant Haskins watches his men age in days. Faces sink. Eyes dull. Jokes disappear. Letters from home feel unreal, belonging to another life in another world. The jungle compresses existence into a narrow band of survival, where past and future barely exist. Private Alvarez, evacuated days earlier with a fever, is already spoken of as if he belongs to a different unit. Those who remain form a tighter bond, but it is a bond forged in shared strain rather than confidence. They trust each other, but they no longer trust the environment at all. Command pressures the company to continue. Objectives must be met. Patrols must push deeper. Maps demand progress even when bodies protest. Captain Lefebvre feels the weight of every order. He knows that hesitation can be deadly, but so can persistence. The jungle punishes both equally. The psychological toll becomes visible. Men startle at harmless movements. Tempers flare. A minor disagreement over a ration packet nearly turned violent before cooler heads intervene. The jungle strips away patience and empathy, leaving raw emotion exposed. In this environment, courage takes a different form. It is no longer about charging forward under fire. It is about standing watch at 3 in the morning while insects crawl across your face. About taking another step when your legs shake. About trusting your training when every instinct tells you to freeze. The enemy understands this. They know that if they wait long enough, the jungle will weaken their opponents for them. By the time a major engagement comes, the Americans will already be tired, sick, and mentally drained. As the patrol prepares to move again at first light, the men know that the jungle has become more than a setting. It is an active participant in the war. And it is fighting on the side of those who know how to endure it. By the second week, survival depends on adaptation. Units that fail to change simply do not last. Captain Lefebvre orders lighter loads, despite resistance from higher command. Extra ammunition stays. Non-essential gear goes. Even then, packs remain heavy, but the men move with slightly less strain. Small changes begin to matter. Patrols shorten. Objectives narrow. Movement shifts to early morning and late afternoon when the heat is marginally less punishing. Men learn to listen differently, to distinguish animal movement from human presence, to read bent grass and broken branches as carefully as any map. Experience replaces doctrine. Medics become some of the most important figures in the unit. Preventive care takes priority. Feet are checked daily. Socks are dried whenever possible, hung briefly in rare patches of sun. Jungle rot is treated early or not at all. Salt intake is monitored. Water discipline becomes strict, not just to avoid dehydration, but to prevent disease. Weapons maintenance becomes ritual. Rifles are cleaned obsessively, stripped and reassembled under ponchos in the rain. Men learn to protect magazines from mud and moisture. A jammed weapon in the jungle is not an inconvenience. It is a death sentence. Tactics evolve. Noise discipline becomes nearly impossible, so movement focuses on unpredictability instead. Routes change frequently. Trails are avoided when possible. The men learn to stop suddenly and wait, listening, letting the jungle reveal itself. Ambushes are anticipated rather than feared. Even with adaptation, attrition continues. Another man is evacuated with a severe infection. 2 more are sidelined by exhaustion. Each loss tightens the circle. Those who remain grow leaner, quieter, more focused. The jungle is shaping them, carving away anything unnecessary. The enemy watches this process unfold. They probe, withdraw, and probe again. They know the jungle will always give them cover. They know their opponents must constantly fight the environment just to function. When they choose to strike, it is precise and brief. During a short but violent engagement near a ridgeline, the Americans hold their ground. Fire is returned accurately. The enemy disengages quickly. It feels like a victory, but the cost is clear. The wounded are not just those hit by bullets. Several men collapse afterward, bodies pushed beyond their limits. Captain Lefebvre writes in his field notebook that night. He does not mention enemy numbers or positions. He writes about heat, about exhaustion, about how the jungle bends time and erodes strength. He understands now that success here cannot be measured by ground gained. The jungle has forced a new definition of combat effectiveness. Endurance becomes firepower. Health becomes morale. Units that manage this survive longer. Units that do not simply fade away, replaced by fresh soldiers who must learn the same lessons again. As the company prepares for what may be their largest operation yet, the men know that even if they defeat the enemy in battle, the jungle will continue its assault long after the firing stops. The jungle that never let go. The final operation begins before dawn, under a sky still heavy with night. The men move silently, as they have learned to do, bodies aching but disciplined. Captain Lefebvre knows this patrol may decide whether his company can continue operating in this sector or must be pulled back, depleted beyond effectiveness. No one says it aloud, but every man feels the weight of it. As first light filters through the canopy, the jungle looks almost peaceful. Mist rises from the ground. Dew clings to leaves. For a moment, it is easy to forget how little this place has been. Then the humidity closes in again, thick and suffocating, and the illusion fades. Contact comes suddenly and violently. The enemy chooses the ground carefully, striking from higher elevation, using ravines and vegetation to break up return fire. The Americans respond with discipline and through exhaustion and loss. Fire teams maneuver as best they can, constrained by terrain that refuses to cooperate. Orders are shouted, repeated, sometimes lost entirely in the green chaos. The fight is intense but short. When it ends, the enemy melts away as they always do, leaving behind no clear measure of victory or defeat. What remains are the wounded, the spent ammunition, and the crushing fatigue that settles in once adrenaline fades. As medics walk, Captain Lefebvre surveys his men. Faces are hollow. Movements are slow and deliberate. These soldiers have not been beaten by superior numbers or overwhelming firepower. They have been worn down day by heat, disease, terrain, and fear. The jungle has taken more from them than any firefight. Evacuation helicopters finally arrive hours later, blades chopping the humid air. Dust and leaves whirl upward as the wounded are lifted out. Some will return. Many will not. Those left behind watch the aircraft disappear above the trees, knowing they will soon move again, deeper or elsewhere, repeating the cycle. Back at a temporary base, reports are fired. Enemy casualties estimated. Objectives partially achieved. Non-battle losses carefully recorded. On paper, it looks like another operation in a long war. But the men know the truth. The jungle has been the constant adversary, shaping every decision, every movement, every outcome. For many soldiers, Vietnam will never truly end. Years later, the smell of wet earth or the sound of insects at night will bring it all back. The heat. The exhaustion. The feeling of being watched by an unseen presence that never sleeps. In Vietnam, bullets killed quickly and visibly. The jungle killed quietly, relentlessly, and without pause. It infected, exhausted, disoriented, and broke men long before they ever faced the enemy face to face. It was the battlefield, the weapon, and the judge of who endured and who did not. Long after units rotated home and maps were folded away, the jungle remained unchanged. Waiting.